All right, so welcome on to this Q&A. Again, we're welcome on to this Q&A. Still working our way through a number of questions here. We spoke Tuesday. Convert issues and Noahide issues, which we're going to go back to Noahide issues shortly. But I just want to work my way through some of these questions. We'll see what we cover here. Someone asks, the oldest complete and full script of the Torah is the Bologna scroll, right? Okay, let's say that's true. Let's say, for argument's sake, that's true, which is only 800 years old. Now, let's say, I think there's older scrolls than that. I think from the Dead Sea Scrolls are older than that, much older than that, but okay. Let's even say that's true. Right? I'll entertain the possibility it's true. How could God not protect the full text from 3,000 years ago or 3,300 years ago? He could have. Obviously, he didn't feel that was that important to do it. We do have texts, right? We definitely have texts older than 800 years. 800 years old. I think that's the case, right? But even if it wasn't, even if we've only recovered short amount, yeah, let's say it's 800 years old, more than 3,000 years old, or 2,000 years old. Okay. And there are a lot of things from the temple time we don't have. Plenty of things. Disappeared or destroyed. Now, certain things, let's say, the Ark of the Covenant, right? Some people think it's still in Turkey somewhere. We hold it still in the Holy of Holies, right? One person knows where it is, or where the vessels of the temple are, right? Some would say, they're in the Vatican. Okay, right? You never know what you find when you spring clean. Could definitely be in the Vatican. Gemara seems to be that way. But there are also going to be some that did not go to the Vatican, that are buried somewhere in Israel. Now, you can ask the question on that. So what about all the vessels? What about incense? You could ask 1,000 questions. Couldn't God have preserved it? Yeah, he could have. Very simple answer. He could have. Some things he did preserve. We don't necessarily know where they are, but it doesn't mean we don't have them, right? They're buried somewhere. Most likely probably in the land of Israel somewhere. And one person in every generation knows where they are. Right? How could God not protect the full text? Of course he could have. Why didn't he want to? That's a better question. Or it's a different question. If he didn't want to protect it, he doesn't have to. Why would he want it to go lost? By God, I tell you. Why are there discrepancies here and there? Give people free will. Say, oh, see, it says like this here, it says like this there. But the discrepancies don't matter, though. Because you take a whole bunch of Torah scrolls, right? And sometimes in certain Torah scrolls, you have spellings of words that either end with a hey or end with an aleph. Now, you're going to say, well, what is it? So you go according to the majority. But why isn't that we don't have, 100% the right spelling according to different Torah scrolls in certain words? Because over time, over the last 2,000 years, the way to spell words has gone, south. Now, could have kept it the same way? Could have. Didn't have to make it that way, that people would forget. But that's exactly why the oral law, by the way, was written down. It wasn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be transpired orally, right? It's supposed to be given over orally. So it's supposed to be given over orally. Didn't God know that he had to preserve it? Yeah, he did. But he gave us the ability to interpret what the Torah says. So if that's the case, it was always supposed to be given over orally. The rabbis came and said, we're about to be destroyed. Jewish people are going to be exiled. So if you don't write it down, it will be forgotten. And was it? Would have been? No question. No question would have been forgotten. Right? So why are certain things buried? We don't know where they are, essentially. Except one person maybe in the generation who knows. And why is it other things are more preserved? Because obviously God thought certain things are more important to be preserved than others. Or to be somewhat intact. I don't know. It's not a contradiction. Yeah, but I would agree that, having a Torah scroll around that's complete, it's really hard, for the last, 3,500 years or whatever, to keep that intact with all the wars, pogroms, and everything else. But you're right. God could have done it. Give an example. The entire, the temple was destroyed, except for that last wall. Why didn't they destroy the last wall? Throughout the millennium, could have destroyed the last wall. Why is there a remnant of that wall? I'll give you a very simple answer. It's what's left there. We say God's presence is still there, right? You feel it. You don't, not the same. It's not revealed, right? Living in a world of Hester B'toch Hester Panim. Living in a world of hiddenness within hiddenness. Very good. But what is part of the wall that's still there? You know what's still there? The Holy of Holies. That's not going to get destroyed. That God wouldn't allow to be destroyed. Right? So there's a remnant. But you get, ask the question the other way. And the question is, why wasn't it destroyed? Throughout all the Crusades and everything else, all the destruction, the exile of the Jewish people, the entire Western Wall, the entire temple should have been destroyed. The entire thing should have been wiped off the face of the map. So that's the other way. Right? Why not? How come they didn't destroy it? Because God didn't allow them to. Had God allowed them to, they would have destroyed it. So it's like anything, you could ask the question, why this and not that? Some things we have answers for, some things we don't. Right? But obviously, God did not feel that there should be a complete Torah scroll left for more than 3,000 years or more. I think we do have the Dead Sea Scrolls and other things. I think they are, they are whole. So it goes further back. Right? But let's say you did. Let's say you're right. Let's say, for argument's sake, I'm in a generous mood. Let's say you're right. God obviously felt it wasn't important enough to preserve it. Why? Because he didn't feel it was right to preserve it. He didn't need to preserve it. More than 3,000 years ago. But I'll tell you a practical thing. With everything else going on, it'd be a pretty big miracle if it would have preserved in the text that we have today. And we do. There are things we found over the years. Definitely found a lot of things. Okay. But a lot of things we don't have. Why? God did not want it preserved. And for whatever reason, even if you tell me it's only 800 years old, maybe the ones that are going to be preserved 3,000 years, you go back another 2,200 years, 2,500 years, maybe it's not going to be good enough. Maybe they wouldn't be intact. And if they wouldn't be intact, you can't use them. Can't use them for anything. So maybe you needed more recent ones. Maybe it's one reason. Right? One potential reason. Right? But again, at the end of the day, God can preserve things and not preserve things. You want to know in God's mind why he wouldn't preserve it? Right? Why a lot of the vessels, the Gemara says, a lot of the vessels of the temple are in Rome. Desecrated in Rome. Right? Probably in the Vatican. A lot of them. Or some of them. Right? We understand some of them are here in the land of Israel also. Why would God do that? Because the Jewish people sinned to high heaven. They deserved that God's presence shouldn't be here. So you know what he had happen? He had the Romans take his holy vessels and desecrate them because of sin. That makes sense, right? That would make sense. Could God have protected them? Yes, he could have. But he obviously didn't want to. Obviously felt he had no reason to. You sinned, you read the book of Jeremiah. Almost the entire book of Jeremiah is foreboding the destruction of the temple. And he's screaming, chastising the people. But no one thought the temple was going to be destroyed. Still have the temple in existence. Come on. Making you're talking smoke here. Doesn't matter. Not going to happen. God's not going to destroy his own place. Jeremiah's a prophet. Like, he keeps warning them. They don't listen, right? So what's God do? Annihilates them. That should have been the end of the Jewish people right there. Annihilates them. As them sent to Babel, to Babylonia. Should have been destroyed right there. So now you want to tell me, okay, God says you're spitting in my face. I'm leaving my place. I'm leaving the temple. Very good. Yeah, so if that's true, I'm going to take my vessels with me. I'm going to let them go into exile. Let them be decimated. Let them be abused. God could do that. But what's the reason? I'll give you one reason, because we deserved it. We didn't use it properly. So, Kaufman's language, chump don't want it, chump don't get it. You abused it. You didn't repent. You didn't listen. So you don't get. Somebody asks, so that, whatever, number of questions to go through, that's one of them, but somebody asks, let's deal with this now. Heard from other rabbis having pictures of yourself online or even on your phone is against modesty laws. Well, the rabbis and rabbanites, their wives, teach online. So for a woman, I would say it's a bigger issue. Even if she's dressed modestly. Yeah. Because women, no matter how they're dressed, can be objectified. People can have, bad thoughts or whatever. So people would say it's better for women not to, or at least not put their pictures up. Religious magazines that don't have pictures of women in there. For that reason. Exactly for that reason. Now, the question is, having pictures of yourself online is against modesty. For a guy, why is that against modesty? Why in the world is it against modesty? If the person is dressed appropriately, should be dressed respectively. I'm not saying it has to be in shirt and tie, right? But should be dressed appropriately. Not necessarily in a t-shirt. But, why is that against modesty? Because, women may objectify him. Women may stare, have different thoughts. Also forbidden for them. True? When we say every day, the third paragraph of the Shema, we say, don't go after your heart, don't go after your eyes. That applies, the Rambam says, others agree. That applies 100% both men and women. So even, let's say a woman, is in a place that's a warm climate, and she's around men, can she be around, let's say, I don't know, a swimming pool area, let's say, and a lot of men, obviously not dressed appropriately. And here's all the men there, or the majority are shriveled up prunes, right? And they're old, because they come on. Someone going to have, bad thoughts about a, washed up prune? Probably not. Still forbidden. That is still forbidden. Yeah, because you're not allowed to go after your heart or after your eyes. Right? The laws of Yichud will say like this: being alone with another woman that's not your wife, or a child, or a grandchild. Let's say it's your mother-in-law. Right? No mother-in-law jokes there, right? But they're all true. Well, let's say mother-in-law. Yeah. Person's mother-in-law is 75 years old, 80 years old, 60 years old, doesn't matter. Shriveled up prune. Wife is out. You have to have the door open, unless there are other people around. You gotta think, come on, what could happen? What in the world could happen? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if nothing in the world would ever happen. The rabbis understood. Right, I told the story before. A guy needed work, and he went to Rav Shach, blessed memory, was a head of the yeshiva in Panovich, and whatever, very diligent student there, very close to him, and he found a job at night. He learned during the day, worked some hours at night, and there was a non-Jewish cleaning lady there, right? Whatever, clean up the office, whatever it was. So Shach said, it's forbidden. Can't do it because you're alone. So the person said, listen, I really need the money. What's going to happen? This person, we come from two totally different cultures. This guy's married with a lot of kids. Totally different culture. Shach took out Shulchan Aruch, took out the Code of Jewish Law, and he read it. And he said, you think we know better than the rabbis? You think we're more intelligent than what the rabbis said? Because that's going to get to the next question. Yeah. You think we know? We think we know better? That's what they said. Forbidden. So this guy obviously thought he knew better. Wanted to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. He didn't listen. He said, what could happen? What in the world could happen? What happened? He started to talk. Got kind of friendly. Next thing you know, he leaves his wife and he shacks up with her. True story. They had a child. Very true story. Things can happen. Rabbis don't make decrees just for the sake of making decrees. They understand mankind and the thoughts of men. Come on, different culture, different color, skin, this, that. Not going to have any connection. I'm going to be learning every day. Like, what's going to happen? I need the money. I need to make money. And Rav Shach said, no. This is a danger the rabbi said. The person said, come on. What connection am I ever going to have with this person? I got work to do. Person's got work to do. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Being alone is forbidden. Period. It's forbidden. There is permissibility. Someone can walk in at any time. There are other people there, whatever. There is permissibility. Not in this case. And Rav Shach screamed at him. So what? Think we know better than them? You think, this doesn't apply to me? So what happened? He didn't listen. His evil inclination overcame him. That's what happened. Right? That's what happened. So again, the person can say, come on, this person or themselves. They're old. Like, what could possibly happen? Can happen? Definitely could happen. Whether it's common or it's not common, doesn't matter. Could happen. I'll bring a proof. It's not a good proof, but I'll bring a proof. What's my proof? One saw an episode on Oprah. Now, not necessarily a proof for anything, but it was by accident. I happened to see this because, TV happened to be on, or whatever, where I was. And it was a button. Who should bring in? A crazy case. A guy was married, divorced his wife, and married his mother-in-law. Happened? I don't think they were making this up or doing it for ratings. Maybe they were. I don't know. Right? Well, let's say, for argument's sake, it's a true case. Person ever married the mother-in-law, so you say, come on, not that old. Let's say, let's say she's 20 years older. Okay. Yeah. So let's say he's 30, she's 50. You can imagine what goes on in that household. Imagine, he's with his ex-wife's mother. You can say, okay, it's not common. Doesn't matter. Not a question whether it's common or not. The question is, could it happen? Could happen. There are a lot of cases the Gemara brings in that seem to be like, come on, it'll never happen. Like, it's far-fetched. They're not so far-fetched. You think different scenarios, how this could happen, that could happen. But obviously they understood. Even to us, it would look like, come on. This person's a washed up, dried out prune. Okay. Person's 75. What are you going to do? You know, it's crazy. It happens. They understood the psyche of man. They didn't say make up things random. They understood you don't reinvent the wheel. These are things you don't mess with. You gotta say, come on, it's so far-fetched, never gonna happen, this, that, 1 in a million. Okay, so what? Could happen. Absolutely could happen. See, we think sometimes, oh, they're out of touch. What do they know? Thousands of years ago, we're so much different. But you think they lived in Victorian England? I mean, think about where they lived. What was going on in society? They lived among the Greeks. You think the Greeks were all Prost? or not Prost, whatever. Like, they had people wrestling naked in the gymnasium. Like, what do you think was going on? They had no idea. Their heads were stuck in the sand. They never looked at anything. They never went out of their caves. Not at all. They understood what goes on. And when they said, a man can't be alone with another woman, it doesn't matter what age. Does not matter. The evil inclination works at that age also. Whether your body can do things or not, whatever. The evil inclination doesn't die over here. Regardless of whether it's, whether it's so common, whether it's so common or not. So I agree, right? Rabbis and their wives, they teach online. Okay. Now, if women have their picture up, they have a page, an Instagram account, whatever. No, just go the wrong. Yeah, maybe that's an issue. Modesty reasons, even if they're dressed totally modest. Someone comes along, their profile, they start thinking things, right? You can say they can do that if they don't have a picture. Probably less. Probably a lot less. There are people that do not have a picture of themselves on there. Absolutely do not have a picture of themselves on there. Right? That's good reason. Now, are they allowed to teach online? Why not? You can reach more people that way. Right? Yeah. So I would say, if it's a woman giving classes, she'll only be given to women. Not really. Men should give classes to only men. Right? But for the sake of doing outreach, there is permissibility. Do it mixed, right? As long as, depend on the material. Now, not everyone would agree. People would say better be separate. Okay. And then the whole question, should men be teaching women? Like in only women's classes, like in girls' schools. So the reality is better for women to teach. Women to teach women. Under certain conditions, men are allowed to teach women. But you have to know. Person has to know themselves. And if they know, they may have other thoughts, this and that, so they can't do it. Shouldn't be allowed to do it. But to be out there teaching, I don't see why that's a problem. That, I don't see why it's a problem. Having pictures of themselves out there for women, yeah, that might be a problem. That I would agree might be a problem. If they don't have a picture of themselves, okay. Right? What about a woman who puts out, let's say, she's very musically inclined, got a good voice, right? So she put out songs, whatever, and to say this is only for women, not for men, not for Jewish men. Is that going to help? What happens if a guy comes upon that, that video, whatever? Is that putting stumbling block in front of people? Could be. You can tell me she got her own album, whatever, good. Whoever listens to it, okay, it's their problem. That doesn't mean she can't do it. Right? But if someone's going to make a mistake, it's their problem. That's putting a stumbling block because she made it. I don't know about that. I wouldn't say that. But if you put it online, then anybody can see it, and there'll be Jewish men that'll see it. That's a problem. That's putting a stumbling block. It doesn't matter if you put up a disclaimer. If you put up a disclaimer and say, hey, this is only for non-Jewish, for non-Jewish women or men, and for Jewish women. Okay. Yeah. Is that going to help them? How does that help? So no. That disclaimer doesn't do anything. Because someone comes along, they see it, so what? They say, wow, I did my duty. I put up a disclaimer. So what? Disclaimer's not going to help. That's putting a stumbling block. So I could very well hear a woman who puts a picture up, that could be putting a stumbling block. Doesn't matter how she's dressed. She should be dressed 100% the way she should be dressed. Yeah. For guys, not the same. Because a woman is less going to objectify a guy than the other way around. That's just the nature. That is just the nature. So that is what I would say on that. Let me see, there are a few other questions here. How much longer am I doing these Q&As? I don't know. So I get bored of doing them, which I don't think so. Even though I got much bigger plans for other things, we'll see where everything goes, right? My schedule's not going to change that much. Somebody asks, okay, views of watching movies, media with cussing, forbidden. That was easy. That's not the only problem. It's one of the problems, right? You got other problems as well, even if they're cartoons. Just images, bad images, immorality, and the fact that, okay, if it's a guy is wasting his time when he could be learning, even if he's not going to learn, right? Wasting time. And not only that, they're portraying something that's false. They're trying to convince you. They're trying to give a message, whether obvious message or a subtle message, that most likely, if I was a betting person, I would say that it goes against Torah. Most likely. So cursing, you got a problem. Immorality, you got a problem. The genre, you got a problem. What if it's, or not science fiction, all these people dying, or action movies, or, or even dramas, whatever, let's say it's nonfiction, it's a documentary. Let's say. Right? We'll make it easy. You think there's no Lashon Hara in it? Probably is. Yeah. So all the way around should be forbidden. So you're telling me, what about movies with cursing? Well, that's a problem. That's for sure a problem. But that's not the only problem. Cartoons are fun to watch. Yeah, but with the violence in cartoons. No matter how fun to watch it, I would never do that. Come on. Never gonna learn from that. But person, what a person sees in general makes an impression. We record it, soul records it. It's there. All the slapstick, stupid things, brother watched a movie, tearjerker, all of a sudden the person dies, and, I can't believe they killed him. But he didn't die. It's probably like having a beer somewhere, It's like, all the blood, that's all fake. All fake. We get caught up in it. Like, like a soap opera, get all caught up in it. Sports are less of an issue. It can be addictive, but, in general, values are bad. Right? So you got cursing's a problem. You got Lashon Hara being a problem. You got immorality being a problem. You got the images probably being a problem. And you got the message being a problem. Yeah. Go on our previous question. Shows or video games, supernatural entertainment. So when Harry Potter came out, the book, not the movie, there was a whole question, should people read it? People allowed to read it. So it was a play on words, right? Harry Potter, right? Potter, right? So they play on words and say Potter of all Usser. What does Potter mean? Means you're not liable, right? Means you're exempt, right? Sounds like Potter, right? Potter or Patur, as they say in modern Hebrew, right? Potter, you're exempt of all Usser, but it's forbidden to do, right? Again, it's just a play on words, right? But sci-fi things and video games, total waste of time. Total waste of time. You say, what's so bad? Right? Right? So, so you say, well, does it depend on the type of game? I don't think it depends on the type of game at all. Just a total mind waste of time. Let's put it in perspective. King David says you're in this world 70 years. If you have strength, 80 years, anything over that's a bonus. Say I'm young, in my 20s, in early 30s. Let's say I got my whole life in front of me. Very good. But think about it. The more you waste time doing this stuff, I'm not going to say it's going to cost you your job and other things, but what does it do? Makes you a couch potato. Right? It's very easy. So it used to be, you want to watch this stuff, you got to get a TV, you got to get cable. You don't need that today. All you need is a phone. Watch on the go. It's very addicting. It's enjoyable. I'm not going to say not. It's enjoyable. Something's scary, something's not, whatever. It's fun. We're not going to say it's fun. When I was growing up, it wasn't one of the only things that came, first thing, one of the things came out, right? I'll date myself here, Atari. Anyone remember Atari and television? Yeah. Go on, the Xbox made that look like nothing. A lot of other things came out afterwards, made it look like nothing. Okay. But he had these games. Right? I'm not even talking video games in an arcade. It's another issue. I'm not saying a person's going to go there every day and waste their money and waste, some people, enjoy that. Very good. But you got to remember one thing. Whatever I do in this world, as a Jew or a non-Jew, is this going to be good for my soul? It's going to help me get closer to God or not? That's the question you got to ask. That is the question you have to ask. Now, the things you mentioned, video games, shows, fantasy books, is this helping me in my relationship to God? Right? So my answer would be no. But we see beyond the shadow of a doubt, these things destroy people. Why do they destroy people? Right? Phones in general, because people don't talk to each other. They have social issues. They have, they don't pay attention. They got attention issues. Can't focus. Head of yeshiva I saw last week at a wedding told me he deals with more modern guys, modern Orthodox guys. And he said the hardest thing today, I think I mentioned this last week or this week, the hardest things is to get them off their phones. So he said it used to be, person came to Israel, they were totally shut off from the rest of the world. Totally shut off. You got to worry about, guys, going to center of town and hanging out and, in the Super Bowl. He said, that's not the problem today. Problem is a guy with his phone or a woman, doesn't matter. They're addicted to their phone. He said to the extent where it will take them, on a trip somewhere, some guys won't get off the bus because they're attached to the phone. That's the problem. That's the problem. Books, less of a problem, even though the material might be bad. Even if it's just fantasy and we understand it's fantasy, whatever, okay. But these other things, totally addictive. Totally addictive. So if we're working on spirituality, anything's going to take you away from your relationship to God is bad. Someone will say, come on, don't you have to unwind? Don't you have to relax? Downtime. Okay, find other ways. But these things, what happens? No one says this stuff isn't enjoyable. Some people it's more enjoyable, less enjoyable, right? Nobody says it's not enjoyable. The person can waste 20 minutes, half an hour, more or less. But not even on that. People are news junkies. They want to see everything live, right? Yeah, I'm not going to take a survey. How many people were, busy watching what happened in LA burn, watching LA burn. Probably a lot. Horrific. No question. Where's all the water? Horrific. Absolutely horrific, but people have seen it in real time. Right? Whether they've seen it on TV, on their phones, doesn't matter. Whatever is, pressing going on today, people are going to watch it. And if you're a news junkie, it's also bad. In New York, they had this channel, you give us 10 minutes, we'll give you the world. Every 10 minutes, throwing over the news. A lot of it's the same as before. Maybe a little more in depth, but whatever, it's usually the same. Yeah, people are news junkies. Afraid they're going to miss something. That's why a person has a TV in the hallway. Why? In case they miss a commercial on the way to the bathroom. But you don't even need that. You have a phone. You don't need a TV in the hallway. Just carry a phone. Technology is amazing. Don't get me wrong. It's unbelievably amazing, but it makes us stupid also. It makes us less focused. Any kid today has to write a paper or whatever. It's great. Spell check. No thesaurus. Anyone know what a thesaurus is? Right? Synonyms, antonyms, dictionaries, looking up words. Do everything online. Right? You can have a dictionary online. You can have a thesaurus online. Very good. Yeah. Person writes the paper, they use Word or whatever program they use. Spell checks, syntax, grammar. They'll make what you write looks good. I'm not even going to get into ChatGPT. Makes it even look better. Makes it look a lot better, let's say. But that doesn't mean you know how to write. It's taking the short way out, taking the shortcut, right? Kids in school, they learn grammar. Got to learn grammar. They're only going to learn grammar if it's done for them. So yeah, technology can make us look very good or not, right? But yeah, you have to know how to use it. And the problem is it's abused today. When I was going up north, it was amazing. You wait for a bus. So, you see people, everyone and their mother has a phone. Bus is coming in 5 minutes, gotta look at my phone. Maybe I missed it. Like everybody. That's what it is. It's a serious disease today. Right? So, is it gonna be something where, it's gonna help you? What's it gonna help you? All it does is pass time and waste time. Or put bad ideas into your head as well. That is what I would say about that. Someone asked, what about a convert teaching hip hop dancing? That's not a problem. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a problem for, if they're teaching women, right? A woman teaching a woman, okay. I don't have a problem with that. I would have an issue more with the style, the genre of it because of what it is. But what's the difference between that and they're doing the rock music, as we say back in the day? Yeah. So there are people, there are women that will work out to that type of music, right? Isn't that music bad? Isn't secular music bad? If you tell me it's got no lyrics, okay, very good, got no lyrics. But usually, secular music, the lyrics are bad. At least when I was growing up, I don't think it's changed. I'm not even talking about gangster rap. It's bad. So shouldn't they, Jewish music is better. I would say it's definitely better music. There is good Jewish music out there, if you call it music. Right? It's also like got a, rock style. Okay. Yeah, people take issue with that. Good. But even if that, that's certainly better. It's certainly better than, than the lyrics of even if they take the same non-Jewish song. Or they're a wedding. It's a wedding for a little bit earlier in the week. So there was background music before the bride and the groom came out. And a lot of times I'm talking about, religious, religious singers and band or whatever they use. Yeah. So I've been at weddings. I'm like, wow, did they just play this song or that song? Some most Israelis don't know because I don't know the original song. It just like sounds nice in the background. So anyway, I was sitting there, and so they're playing this background music, while people were eating. And what's the song? Song is Frank Sinatra, New York, New York. So there's another guy there, obviously an English speaker. Obviously an English speaker says, "Hey, I can't believe they're playing this." I got, I wasn't kind of, I wasn't surprised. It has happened, but like no one else would know the song, right? It was kind of funny. I was like, wait a minute, I know this one. It happens. That good thing or a bad thing. So they know what the song is, maybe. Other people don't know the song. Okay, whatever, it's just background music, right? There no lyrics, but you can ask the question: is it a good thing or not a good thing, right? Or taking, what some people do is they take non-Jewish songs and put Jewish music to it, Jewish lyrics. Anyone's seen from Queens, Bohemian Rhapsody, they have a group made a whole song about it for Hanukkah. And it's done very well, right? Done extremely well. A lot of these songs they do. Yeah, group's called 613. So I'll give them a plug. But if you know the original, you know the original. So there will be an argument for sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. They're gonna say, come on, they're taking a song, right? I'm not even gonna talk about the band itself, right? By Queen, but they're taking a song, forget about who the people are who originated the song. Yeah, they're putting a Jewish theme to it. So the question is that good or bad? Some people will say bad. A lot of people would say bad. Also, if you take Tehillim, you take, certain verses in prayer or in the book of Psalms or whatever, and you make a whole song to it. Right? There's a discussion. The Gemara asks the question whether you should do it or not. Whether it's a good thing to do. Is it forbidden? It's not forbidden. But if you're taking non-Jewish music, putting Jewish theme to it, I can hear. People would say, it's bad. There's no question. It's bad. Even if you put a Jewish theme to it. Even if the lyrics are good, so what? But can I use non-Jewish things for my benefit? That's the question. Somebody asks, a question I had before, someone gets put in a trance and they do something wrong, right? Spill seed or whatever, it was an onus, right? So the question was, is that person considered it's beyond their control? So if they do something wrong, then what happens? Then they're guilty. Then they're not guilty because it's not their fault. They were hypnotized, right? Or do we say just because they're hypnotized, they did the action anyway, right? Yeah. If someone, God forbid, drank too much and drove, right? Always bad. Or they text when they drive and they kill somebody. That's negligence. That's negligence. So if they're texting, it's one thing. But if they're plastered out of their mind, people say, "Oh, I drive better when I drink." Okay, yeah, right. According to secular law, that's vehicular homicide. That is vehicular homicide. I was under the influence. So what? That doesn't give you a right to do whatever you want. Now, if someone's mentally challenged, oh, yeah. Someone's schizophrenic and they act out or whatever. They don't take their medication and they go nuts and they hurt someone, whatever. They're liable. They're going to say, I didn't know what I was doing. That'd be an easy claim. In court, they're going to throw it out. They didn't take their medicine. They would have done it otherwise. So what if they're guilty? I mean, sorry. So what if they're not in the right mind at that time? Okay. Right. That we spoke about. Now, someone says, what if they are a non-Jew? Still applies to them. Why doesn't it apply to them? If a non-Jew, it would be the same thing. If a non-Jew's under onus. Yeah. In other words, they get hypnotized and do something. Okay. Again, there are two sides of the argument. One side of the argument would be, it's an onus, it's not their fault, they're not guilty. The person who hypnotized them, they're guilty. Okay. Right? The other side is no. That they did the action, doesn't matter if they're hypnotized, they're guilty. So there's no difference. Should have made that clear. There's no difference between a Jew and a non-Jew in that case. Wouldn't make any difference. Someone asked, we have to use vaporizers like e-cigarettes. That's the problem. That's the problem. People will say, and I've heard a number of people speak about this, that, I mean, I'm not an expert by any stretch, but, I did hear some experts that did speak about it. And they said it's just dangerous. They said it's just as dangerous. That shouldn't be done. Yeah, you say, come on, these other things, cigarettes are worse, more addictive, this and that, but you're inhaling this stuff in your system. It's totally not healthy. 100% not healthy. I know of people that wouldn't take the vaccine. Okay. You say whatever you want about the vaccine, but they'll take this, right? So ask somebody. I said, okay, you were super stringent not to take the vaccine. Very good. Okay, that's your choice. But you're putting this in your body. That's worse, isn't it? Like, good point. Like, okay, good point. You can say, again, I'm not here to say, anything good or bad, about the COVID vaccine. I'm just pointing out someone who says, I wouldn't put that in my body, right? Okay. They wouldn't put it in their bodies. Their choice. But you put this in your body? Right? And this seems to be, pretty bad, right? In many ways. Someone asked, but if your heart hears the lyrics for secular songs with instrumental, wouldn't we be causing someone to sin? Why? You're not causing anyone to sin per se. The question is that's effect on you, right? But what if you so I'll say like this, what if you put the song out there? You yourself put the song out there. That got a stumbling block? Could be. But if you're listening to it, it's only a stumbling block for yourself, not for anyone else. Yeah, somebody asks, what do I recommend for replenishing your emotions, mental space? We just want to relax after being stressed all day. Good question. I would say one good thing is strengthen the body. Exercise is good, right? Learning is good, right? In other words, you come from a hectic day, right? Being, thrust in the secular world, nothing better than, okay, you might be tired, you got to rejuvenate a little bit, maybe get a caffeine fix, whatever. You gotta strengthen the soul. 100%, you gotta strengthen the soul. However long, right? A person has an obligation to learn something every day. Right? And certainly a Jew. I would say a non-Jew also. Right? I mean, according to the Noahide laws, they don't have to, for sure not. Right? But I would say, if you don't feed the soul also just atrophies. Right? I can say, but it's too heavy. I need something lighter. Okay, so you learn something lighter. But exercise is good. Definitely exercise is good. Reading is good. What if I don't like to read? Okay. Want to listen to classes online? It's also good. Makes you tired, this, that. You have to find a way within Torah to be able to do it. Learning is a good way, though. It strengthens a person. Doesn't matter. You learn 20 minutes, half an hour, less, more. You need that spiritual lift, even if you learn a little bit of time. So that's where I'd say not to have cruel language. Heard the rabbi say foul things, or upset at a group and ramble on. There, the Gemara says, I have to get the source, I'll find it, that two rabbis walking on the way. They see a dead animal, carcass. So one rabbi says, this is disgusting, totally disgusting, right? Thing stinks to high heaven. The other rabbi says, look, what beautiful teeth it had. say interstate. Two different ways of looking at it. Right? A lot of times the Torah will say, this is impure. Right? The word tummy means impure. But sometimes instead of saying impure, the Torah will say is lo tahor. It's not pure. Not using the negative that it is impure. Now, someone there says, I heard a rabbi say foul thing. Okay. Now, one thing to learn from this is that it doesn't mean everyone's infallible. Someone says something, they do something, the person, flies off the handle. It can happen. Doesn't mean it's right. It's certainly not right. Right? Regardless of what a person did. But, I'll tell you this. What happens when a person uses crude language? It means it's there inside them. Right? I've spoken about this many times. A person, there's a story of a professional basketball player a couple of years ago, was live streaming, playing a video game, whatever, and he made an anti-Semitic comment. Now, the NBA fined him. The NBA, he's injured anyway. Wouldn't get a salary the rest of the season, okay, but he was already injured. In either case, but he made an anti-Semitic statement. Now, on that, a half Jew on the wrong side, a former professional football player, right, considers himself Jewish, but only his father's Jewish, so he's not really Jewish. But he says, I'm in Miami a lot, come to my house, spend Shabbos together, we'll have Friday night dinner, you'll have some matzo ball soup, we'll be tied, you won't hate Jews anymore. Now, first of all, this guy doesn't know nothing from nothing. Anyway, what's he gonna, just eating gefilte fish or whatever, it's not gonna help over here, right? But even better, let's understand, when a person says something, it means it's in their mind. It means it's something they thought. It means it's part of their psyche. Now they're gonna say, Freudian slip, I can't believe I said it. No, you said it. 100% you said it. Now, you're right, you didn't want it to come out. You're right, people are gonna take you to task. Very good. You made a mistake in saying it. Okay. That's fair, except for one thing. Whenever a person sees, whatever a person hears, the soul records it, right? Just like a recording now, the soul records it. Now, if the soul records it, it's there in your system. It's there in your system, which means it doesn't disappear fully. It's there. Now, you can work hard to get rid of it, to not think about it. Very good. 10 years could go by, you haven't thought about it. All of a sudden something triggers it and it comes out. So someone is going to make an anti-Semitic statement. It must mean they thought about it before. It doesn't matter if they thought about it a split second before, an hour before, 10 years before. It doesn't matter. The fact that it's in their system, that's what they thought. So there's no excuse, I can't believe I said it. Okay, you said it. You said it. Now, maybe they didn't necessarily mean it the way they said it. Okay. But when you think something and it comes out, that's what you thought. So the idiot says, he comes to me for Shabbos, we'll have gefilte fish, matzo ball soup. You're not going to hate Jews anymore. He's going to hate Jews. That's what he thinks. And when he got upset, that's what he said. He didn't say about Chinese people. He didn't say about, Pakistanis. He didn't say about Indians. He said about Jews. Why do you think he said about Jews? Happened to be the person was black. Doesn't really matter. Right? He could have said it against his own people. Could have. Right? He didn't say about Hispanics. He didn't say it about Algerians or Australians. He said it against Jews. The reason he said it against Jews. Doesn't matter if he thought, I shouldn't have said it. I should have been more careful. Yeah, you should have been more careful. But that doesn't mean that's not what you thought. That's exactly what you thought. You said it. You got caught saying it. Yeah. I'll tell you a story happened to me. Somebody made a disgusting comment. I'm not going to say what the comment was. Or, you know what? I won't say what the comment was. I won't say who said it. Basically someone had said, who cares what you say? You think anyone really cares what you say? Someone said. So I called them on it, They say it's a good thing between, spouses to reflect, to hear what the person said, and then say, oh, did you say this? Did you mean this? Right? Have more open lines of communication. So few people made that comment. Same phone conversation. So I reflected. I said, did you just really say, like, doesn't really matter what you say? Like, they denied it. I called them on it. They denied it. I never said that. Like, what do you mean? Unless I'm senile, which I might be, but I don't think so. I was much younger, right? Many, many years ago. So I said, either I'm senile or I'm deaf. Could be both. Very well could be both. And they denied it. I said, did you just not? I said, I wish I could have recorded it. I said, did you just not hear what you said? And that's kind of offensive. I mean, you have to agree. I'm not saying everyone has to agree with everything I say, okay. Right? But it's kind of like getting knocked over. All right, no one gives a rat tail what you have to think. Well, that's kind of obnoxious in a certain way. But they denied it. They denied saying it. I heard them say it very clearly. Very, very clearly. Yeah. Now, obviously, that's what they thought. Okay. Yeah, where they're coming from doesn't really matter. Okay, whatever. But I called them on it. Whether I should have not, doesn't matter. I called them on it. Said, did you just say this? I called it straight away, and they denied it. Now, either they don't think they said it, could be, or they're trying to backtrack now that I caught them. Someone asks, is Shabbos a 14th of Olam Haba? Yes, it is. Right? Shabbos is considered a 60th of Olam Haba. Or 60th of death, maybe. It's considered, it is considered like Olam Haba. Like the next world. Or how's the part of Olam Haba? You're alive. You're keeping Shabbos right now. How is that part of Olam Haba? You're not dead. Olam Haba only means when you're dead. Yeah. Could be when the Messiah comes as resurrection of the dead. Right. Then Olam Haba will be. Or the next world will be considered after the Messiah comes, before a person, before resurrection of the dead. But it's not Olam Haba right now. You're experiencing the ability to keep Shabbos. Very good. That is part of Olam Haba, right? To a certain extent. But not the Olam Haba. For sure not. What other things does Shabbos represent? It represents God's control of the world. That's why we say a Jew desecrates Shabbos in public as the status of a non-Jew. He basically desecrates God's name because God created the world and God's in charge. Represents God's dominion over the world. We say every Friday night, we say Genesis chapter 2. God stopped his creating. Right? Why do we stand? Why do we have the custom to stand at that point? Because you're testifying that God's in charge, that God runs the world. If God truly is in charge and runs the world, you want to give testimony, you got to stand. But someone who doesn't keep Shabbos, a Jew, let's say better, Jew does not keep Shabbos. What's their status? They deny God. They deny God created the world. It doesn't matter what your thoughts are at that point. A person's half asleep, a lot of noise, whatever. You're trying to make kiddush, etc. You're sanctifying God's name. You are declaring God is the one in charge of the world. That's what Shabbos is. And the fact that God stopped creating, so there are things I can't do. Right? Just like it was done in the tabernacle. I cannot do. Can't create anymore. Can't destroy things, whatever the categories are. So that shows that I can't do anything. In other words, someone said, what would happen if something serious happened on Shabbos? They said, you won't answer the phone. I said, right. I said, I can't do anything about it anyway. Even if it would be. What if someone got seriously injured or died? I said, what would you want me to do? Can't be there. If I was in the hospital already and someone's already sick, good. It's another, that's a different issue, right? And if someone died, what would happen? So you missed it. What are you going to do? So you come after Shabbos. What are you going to do? Right? Shabbos represents God's dominion of the world. And the fact that we don't work, right? Or do physical labor or any other labor that we're going to make money from, right? And that's belief that God's in charge. So he can give you livelihood in 6 days or 7 days or 5 days. But on Shabbos, you can't work. Can't get benefit from work in general. Can't make money on Shabbos. Are all converts at Mount Sinai? Anyone who wants to convert, I would say 100% their soul is at Mount Sinai, because it doesn't make sense that a non-Jew would be interested in conversion in general. Most people I deal with came out of Christianity. They see the fallacy of Christianity, very good, but it would not make sense whatsoever. If 80% of the Torah doesn't make sense, a non-Jew coming to Torah doesn't make sense, at all. Right? Meaning, I grew up as a Jew, not knowing very much, but I grew up as a Jew, so, come Sukkot, I saw what a lulav was, what an esrog was, right? Your lemon on steroids. So imagine a non-Jew that, in that service during the day or on Shabbos, they come into an Orthodox synagogue, yeah, and they come during Hallel, during those Thanksgiving psalms. They have to say Shmon Esrei psalm, meditation, whatever you want to call it, and they walk in the synagogue. Right? And they see all these Jews going like this with their lulav. They're shaking it like this. They're shaking it like this. They're shaking it like this. They're going to say, what planet did I drop on? Where, doesn't make any sense. What are they doing? Yeah. So a non-Jew would say, I have this calling. I feel like this is what I have to do and whatever. Right? Most people I come in contact with. Very good. Why? I give them a lot of things the person can do. Judaism ain't one of them. Right? Not to mention all the tragedies and everything else Jewish people have gone through and the hardship. Yeah, that's all true. But doing these things that don't make a lot of sense, that 80% doesn't make any sense, in general, we have to understand it, try and make sense of it. Yes, that we have to do. But for a non-Jew, wouldn't make any sense at all. That's why their soul had to be at Mount Sinai. Right? Now, how does a non-Jewish soul, how does a Jewish soul become a non-Jew? Non-Jewish soul, right? Through assimilation into marriage, that soul now becomes a non-Jewish soul. But how does that work? Metaphysically? Okay, that's Kabbalah. Right? Kabbalah 101, 101a. But a non-Jew, would never come to Torah mitzvahs if their soul was not a Mount Sinai. That is for sure. Someone asks, is there a blessing for when it snows? No. No blessing for when it snows. There's a blessing for lightning. There's a blessing for thunder. There's a blessing if, if he's the top rabbinic scholar in the world. So, there would be a blessing if a person saw a midget, which isn't so common. Right? It's called Mishana Habrios. Like you make a blessing, say, God made different different creatures, different types of people or whatever. I wouldn't say transgender for sure not. Right? I'm saying like something that's like strange and different. Right? So imagine, someone wants to make the blessing, they see a midget, they pick him up and say, oh, I'm making the blessing. Mishana Habrios. It's like, come on. Yeah, you embarrass the person also. But yeah, you got thunder, you got lightning, other things, but definitely not on snow. Definitely not on snow. Somebody asks, is there a spiritual blessing, authority shown to angels for women who don't cut their hair? Right? Paul talks about that, no idea. Right? For women not to cut their hair, I don't see why. First of all, there's no spiritual blessing, that's for sure. There is something I would say, if a woman or a guy, doesn't really matter, they don't cut their hair because they take on the Nazirite vow. Now that is forbidden, 100% forbidden today, because we have no way to absolve the person of the vow. Because you have to bring sacrifices, can't do that. Anyway, what does a Nazirite do? They make a declaration, right? They're not going to drink wine, not going to eat grapes, not going to come in contact with dead body, go to a cemetery. Like, I'm sure, it's going to be a hard thing for most people. right? So taking on the Nazarite vow, right? Very good if a person wanted to do it. You could. Torah speaks about it, right? But what's the problem? The problem is you can never bring a sacrifice. We don't have a temple today, so you can't do it, right? So if you tell me someone took on the Nazarite vow, very good, right? Or maybe not so good. They're not going to cut their hair. Okay. So that's good for a man or a woman. Doesn't really matter. That's the only thing I can think of, right? Or if a person made a vow they're never going to cut their hair. Not a Nazarite vow, but you don't see that. We don't see that. And not only that, I'll just tell you, even taking on a Nazarite vow, forbidding things that are, permissible, you have to keep the vow. So there's a whole question that the Gemara asks: is it better to make a vow and keep it, or never make a vow? And the answer is better not to make a vow. Why? Because you may not keep it. Right? So I don't know anything. I don't have any spiritual blessing for that. That a person can be shown angels if you don't cut their hair. No, so I mean, as far as I know, or in Judaism, no such case. Do all Jews there are a special type of soul Mount Sinai? Of course, we're different. Read the book Derech Hashem, right? Our souls are different than non-Jews, right? Non-Jews are at a disadvantage. No offense, right? They're at a disadvantage. They're on the same aspect of the soul that we do. They want to convert, they can. They don't have to, but they're at a disadvantage. So, so all non-Jews except all Jews get their soul at Mount Sinai. That's where they got it from. Right? That's exactly where they got it from. And if the mother's Jewish, it gets passed down. Right? It gets passed down generation after generation. Right? But that made the Jewish people Jewish when they were considered converts to Mount Sinai. Yeah. Somebody asks, non-Jews in Christianity learning from a King James version, are they considered to learn Torah or not? So they see the correct version. Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem because of a lot of inaccuracies. King James. How many different translations of King James and whatever are there out there? Plenty. So I would say like this. First of all, you should never use it. Definitely, you should never use King James. But if you did, right, just first part of the question, if you did use King James and King James got the right translation, then you get credit. Right? You would, if that was the correct interpretation, very good. Right? You get credit for it. If it's not, then yeah. Then that's not learning Torah. That's definitely not learning Torah. And if they did learn from King James Version, all right, let's say the non-Jews lose their share in the world to come by learning from a heretic, or from heretics by studying the King James Version. That'll make you a heretic for studying it. It's wrong. It's a mistranslation. There's no question, right? That there's no question. Yeah. Learning from heretical sources are bad. They're 100% bad. Yeah. Does that mean a person will lose their portion of the world to come? No. It's not something you lose your portion of the world to come from, right? A person could be called a heretic if they believe every word of the Torah came from God to Moses, but one verse. That you can lose your portion of the world to come from. That you can be called a heretic for. Or if you don't believe in the prophecy of Moses, or if you don't believe in prophecy, or some other things. The Rambam has a whole list, the laws of repentance. Different types of heretics. Learning from a bad source does not make you a heretic per se. It's bad, I would agree. Getting wrong explanations, I would agree. And if they found out that they did, they should repent 100%. Does not make them a heretic. We're not saying it makes them a heretic. And there's a punishment for non-Jews who learn from heretics, King James Version, or they're not get punished because they didn't know the truth. Yeah, you can say the same thing by a Jew. Let's say a Jew grew up, never knew anything. Never knew anything. Was a potato farmer in Idaho, right? No offense, anyone's a potato farmer, grew up in Idaho. They grew up knowing absolutely nothing. Now, they're not, ignorance isn't bliss. They are going to pay the price. right? They'll pay the price for what they did, sometimes a serious price, but a lot of things that they do, they'll be looked at like they did it by accident. They're still liable, 100%. They're still liable, but they'll be liable like they did it by accident. Into marriage, we're not going to say that. Desecration of Shabbos, we're not going to say that. Yeah, there are certain things we're not going to give them a free pass, right? Or somewhat of a free pass. And the knowledge doesn't begin until they actually receive the Chumash. The problem is, depends how far they go. If you're telling me they're just learning the Old Testament, they're just learning the Old Testament from King James. So if King James got the right explanation, it's not the end of the world. If King James got the wrong explanation, they didn't know any better, that's the Bible that they have, different issue. Different issue. Yeah. But if they grew up as a Christian and they're using King James, that's a worse issue. That's idolatry. That 100% is idolatry. If you say they're just learning from the text, right? Very simple. They're learning from the Old Testament, quote unquote. And they're learning using this as a text. Yeah. So if it's a mistranslation, they don't know any better. Okay. Right? So that's like they're doing it by accident. If King James got the right translation, let's say, right? Not, all wrong, right? The verses that you might get right. Okay. So then he consider learning Torah, even though you should have learned from it. Is there a school training prophets at this time? No. No. I've heard some people talking. No. Not that I know of. In other words, in Derech Hashem, right? In Derech Hashem, the Ramchal says there were schools of people training to be prophets. Yeah, you're talking thousands of years ago, not today. Not today. The Gemara says the only people that have prophecy today are either little children or imbeciles. There's no prophecy. Even the greatest rabbi of the generation may have divine inspiration, which is a low form of prophecy, but there's no prophecy today. We're not prophets, we're not sons of prophets. Back in the day when there was prophecy, real prophecy, there were people who learned for that, who were trained in that. Okay, but you're talking thousands of years ago, not today. I don't know anybody. Speaking of the Navi Sheker, of a false prophet. Okay, but again, nobody's studying that today. Even they're studying Kabbalah and this and that. They're not studying that. They're definitely not studying that. Someone says, Torah says, men should not wear women's garments. Right. So should women wear dresses, shirts, and have long hair to promote gender distinction? Women can't wear men's clothes. What about clothing that is unisex? Still, some people say, you get these pants that are like baggy pants that say, it's not really men's clothing. Okay. But if you could see, we'll keep this clean, if you could see the split between the legs, then it's forbidden. 100% forbidden. Women are obligated to modesty, just like men are. Right? I mean, people think men aren't obligated to modesty. They are. So forget transgender, just, cross-dressers. I remember one time I went to the States and I was like, I don't know, I was looking at whatever, some person, that's what I'll call them. Person walked, by me, whatever, and I'm like, oh, first cross-dresser, haven't seen a cross-dresser in a long time. Yeah, that's forbidden. It's a guy. It's clearly a guy. Dressed as a woman. That's forbidden. Right? Women can't wear men's clothing. So women wear dresses, shirts, and have long hair to promote gender distinction in order to observe this commandment. Women have their own modesty laws, but yeah, they are gonna dress, they're gonna dress modestly, right? They're gonna dress, again, having long hair. Don't have to have long hair. I mean, they don't have to be bald either. Doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be so long. But yeah, there will be a distinction, right? There's obviously a distinction in the body. I mean, there is a distinction in the body, like just biology, how a person, was born. So in that case, that by itself shows gender distinction. Regardless of what people think today, that shows beyond the shadow of a doubt gender distinction. Now, how can a woman show more gender distinction? She wears makeup. Men don't wear makeup usually, or earrings, right? Let's say. So that would also distinguish. But there are modesty laws, yeah, that a woman has to abide by, a man has to abide by. Is that the only reason? To show that distinction? I mean, there are other ways to show distinction besides clothing, right? You're gonna say, how's that? The way the body's made. That shows distinction right there. Again, I'm not going into all these gender issues, whatever. That shows distinction, but yeah, it would show distinction the way they dress, for sure. 100% for sure. Now again, is there a mitzvah for a woman to have long hair? No. Not a big mitzvah. For modesty reasons, unless a woman's married, her hair should be up. It really shouldn't be out. If it's long. Why? Because guys stare at women's hair. Besides other body parts, but they a woman who's not married, they stare at their hair. So therefore, if a woman had long hair, it's better to tie it up. Oh, they might stare at that also. Less likely. Much less likely. The longer hair, there's more to, there'd be more to stare at for that. Yeah, let me see other questions here. Someone says, I noticed in the holiday calendar says permitted with certain restrictions. Passover, April 15th, 18th. Could not find restrictions. Chol Moed, it's called. Right? It's called Chol HaMoed, right? Intermediate days of the festival. Intermediate days of the festival mean that there are certain things that are like the festival, the way a person dresses. Let's say, just dress in Shabbos kosher, have festive meals, drink, a little bit of wine, have some meat, let's say, but certain things you can't do. Right? Shouldn't be allowed to write, shouldn't be allowed to work. In general, not like, certain things maybe like Shabbos, but, food preparation are allowed. If a person needs to work, they're allowed to, but yeah, there are restrictions. I'm not going into it now; it's complicated. But there are definite restrictions. Is it okay for a married woman to pierce her nose? No. Even though people say Rivka had her nose pierced, and maybe some other people had their nose pierced or whatever, maybe in times of Tanakh we don't do it. We don't do it. That's body piercing, right? Again, even people say, well, Rivka did it. Okay, if you're on the level of Rivka, you can do it, right? But that's not the case. That's not the case. So that's considered body piercing, right? We don't do it. There are people not going to say not. There are Orthodox Jewish women that have their nose pierced. Okay, I can't tell you, but that's not the norm. It's definitely not the norm. I heard Isaac's wife had her nose. Yeah, Rivka. That's what I said. Right? Showed she was taken. I don't know about that. I don't know if she had her nose pierced because to show that she was married. In Yemen, women only cover their hair if they're married. Right? So in Yemen, they even had, adult girls cover their hair, which is not the norm. It's certainly not the halacha, but in order that they wouldn't be taken by Yemenite men. They wouldn't be abused or raped or whatever. They would see that they were married, they wouldn't touch them. I don't know if it's the same today or not, but back in the day, that's what they did. And nobody says, that that single women have to cover their hair. Yeah, even when they make blessings, even when they're in synagogue, right? Nobody says they have to cover their hair. Right? Therefore, in such a case, like in Yemen, I could hear, or certain countries, women cover their hair, so men wouldn't take them even if they weren't married. But that's a specific case, right? In general, even though there is an opinion according to the code of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch says there were single women that did cover their hair, but there was a specific context. There was a specific context, right? Today, single women don't cover their hair. Somebody asks, so Isaac and Abraham weren't Jews. Who said they weren't Jews? It is brought down that they kept the Torah before it was given, whatever that means. There's no question if Isaac, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their kids were all considered Jews or not. Because you get a lot of questions if they weren't. Right? Jacob marries two sisters, forbidden, according to the Torah. Yeah, Yehuda's with Tamar. Some say he stayed married to her. He stayed with her. His father-in-law can't be with a daughter-in-law. Yeah, a number of questions if you go through the book of Genesis. A lot of questions, whether they were Jews or not. Right? A lot of questions on them. Pastimes, Jewish sages changed the angel had influence on people to worship idolatry, but they later released. I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know what the source for that is. Yeah, any other questions? A lot of questions I don't get to, but I'm running out of time over here. Yeah, one thing. Yeah, I want to hit one other thing quickly. Someone says most of Judaism is irrelevant to a non-Jew, modern day Jews. Most rituals save for Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. I've dealt with this question. Like, go back and watch my Q&As, right? Let's go back and watch them. But I'll deal with it, right? Hypothetical situation. Okay, right? Ben Soromor, right? A wayward son. Some say when a wayward son never happened. Okay, for a non-Jew, right? We'll make it very clear. A non-Jew, there are a lot of things in the Torah don't apply, so don't learn it. Who says a non-Jew has to learn it, right? I want to go to the Torah portion of the week. And a lot of things in Leviticus are all about sacrifices. You know what? What happens if the Messiah comes tomorrow? Let me ask a theoretical question. The Messiah can come anytime except on Friday, except there Shabbos or on Shabbos, right? So let's say the Messiah will come tomorrow. He rebuilds the temple, sacrifice. You gonna say that's irrelevant? No. You're gonna have the gall to say it's irrelevant? I don't think so. You gotta learn it anyway. You gotta make it practical. Jews have to make it practical. Doesn't apply to non-Jews. They ain't gonna be, they ain't gonna be sacrificing things. True. So don't learn it. Who said you have to learn it? You learn what you're obligated to learn. You keep the Noahide laws. You learn what you have to learn. And that's it. Right? There are a lot of things that don't make a lot of sense. Okay, you have to learn. Jews have to learn how to keep it and what to do. Very good. Yeah, very good. So a lot of Jews are relevant to non-Jews. So either convert, man up and convert, or don't. And if you don't want to convert, don't complain. Learn what you want to learn. Right? That's what you should do. You don't want to learn it because most of book of Leviticus, doesn't speak to you. Okay, so what? Jews still have to learn it. So it's a good thing you're not a Jew. We still have to learn it. We still have to understand it to the best of our ability. We still have to know what to do with sacrifices. Yeah? Let me ask you. The Gemara says, there's the whole thing about a Ben Soromor, right? I'll just tackle this question for a second. Right? Wayward Jew. Wayward Jew. So the Gemara says, it's very hard to kill this child, between the ages of 12 and 12 and a half. Right? Why? If he ate a quarter pound of meat and, drank a little bit of wine, give him half a year. We see the direction he's going to go. If he doesn't change, you kill him. Okay. Now the Gemara says, but the, father and mother have to be the same height, have to be the same voice. Right? So it never happens. Impossible to happen almost. So then the Gemara says, okay, I got another opinion. Right? What's the other opinion? The other opinion is it never happens. No one ever was killed. No child between the ages of 12 and 12 and a half were ever killed. Very good. They were never killed. So why is it in the Torah? Gemara asks the question, why is it in the Torah? What's the answer? To give you merit to learn it. Give you reward to learn it. But it doesn't have any relevance. Do you have any idea what the merit is in the next world? Learning even something doesn't have relevance? You have any idea what that means? No, you don't. I don't even know what it means. Yeah? But the rabbis are 10 times greater than us and will be in 10 lifetimes, in a million lifetimes. And they're going to tell you, you know what? Even if it doesn't make sense, even if it never happens, there's such an opinion that says, it never happens. Why do you learn it? What's the point of learning? Because it makes you a better person learning it. Whether you understand it or not, doesn't matter. It makes you a better person, period. Whether it has relevance to you or not. So you don't want to learn it? Don't learn it. You don't have to learn it. And the laws of purity and impurity. When the temple comes back, they're going to be laws of purity and impurity. Don't you have to know it as a Jew? Don't you have to know it? Of course you have to know it. You have to know it well. When the temple's rebuilt, we're going to go back to that level of purity and purity. Very good. So you have to know it. So it's not irrelevant. It doesn't necessarily apply today. Okay. But you're going to say, well, if I survive and I'm going to be in the next world, you're right. It also doesn't apply to you. Because purity and purity don't apply to a non-Jew. Okay. So learn it. So learn those things and apply. Right? I'll tell you even better. You want to say most of Judaism is irrelevant to a non-Jew? So don't learn it. Don't learn it. Do whatever you want. Don't waste time. Do something else. Find something else to do with your time. You're going to sit there and complain. Sit there and say, oh, it's irrelevant, so why bother? So don't. So don't bother. Learn only those things that are relevant to you. You don't want to learn the other things? Don't. You don't have an obligation to. Only Jews do. Yeah, is there any restriction on black clothing? No. I also should have mentioned, someone mentioned by red. You can have red in something for a woman, but it shouldn't be like only red, right? In other words, if it's mixed in some other clothing, that's okay, right? But red by itself is a problem. Because Anne is already married a sister under the chuppah. That's all right. I don't want to go into that now. Science tells us we're breathing oxygen. Is that true? I don't know. Why isn't it true? Why is that not true? The air could be polluted, doesn't mean there's not oxygen in it. If we weren't breathing oxygen, let's make clear. If we're not breathing oxygen, we'd be alive, we'd be dead. So what are we breathing? Right? Maybe science has something different to say, but the world's made up of oxygen, right? Mankind has to live with air. If you don't have air, you die. So what are we breathing? Genesis chapter 3 says God made clothes, and Genesis says there is sacrifice. Clothing and sacrifice, I don't know if there's a connection or not. What's the firmament? What is the firmament? Right, that was created, right, the first day, right, first day or second day, right? So that was seemingly, usually means, some people translate the sky, right? Genesis says that there was a firmament, right, amidst the waters. Genesis chapter 1, verses 6 to 8. So the question over here, they also said, or seemingly, that they looked at the earth as a plane or hill figured like a hemisphere, like on water, so to speak. So the question over here, if it goes against science, right? One idea is that we're talking about some type of semi-spherical shell around the world. Sun travels during the day, right? It goes around and covers at night. And that was their understanding, I guess, according to cosmology. And the Jews got a lot of that from, I don't know, I guess from the Greeks. Babylonians probably knew more. But whatever, then they switched there's the whole question over here, right? Exactly, what exactly they held. There are different opinions. There are different, there are different opinions. So the question is just on that: is it considered, just that they have the right information, right? The rabbis have the right information, against science or geology or, any of these other things. Which whatever, maybe I'll cover it one day. It's a much bigger topic to discuss on one foot. I was taught that God killed a lamb and made clothes out of it and taught Adam to make blood sacrifices. That's why I said Cain's sacrifice wasn't accepted. That I don't know. I know that one reason his sacrifice wasn't accepted because he gave flax. Put flax on an altar. Flax is like giving dandelions. And God says, like, you give me dandelions? That's what you put, that's how you serve me? That's why I didn't accept it. This, I don't know. This I'll have to look into. This I'll have to look into. Yeah, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel Time. Anyone has any questions, feel free. Find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, ethics for fathers, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, whichever good. Beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, and everyone have a great